Gopichanna Vallabha Girivaradhare Yasodananana Brajajanna Ranjana Yasodananana Brajajanna Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Rama Madhava Gunjam Bihari Gopi Janavava Girivaradhare Gopi Janavava Girivaradhare Yasodananana Brajajanna Ranjana Yasodananana Brajajanna Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 64th verse, 64th chapter, text 24. I actually had prepared for 27 and 28 because that was my day. But I will cover this, and I'll it's okay, I'll do 27 and 28. Don't want to waste all that good hard work. Okay, Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayaradarat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrinvata Swakata Krishnaha Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hrityatha Stohi Abhadrani Venanoti Surit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of God, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desires from the material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed an urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nasta praya bhadeshu nityam bhagavati sevayam bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavijinaishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to this pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established. It's an irrevocable fact. So right to we have that up on the board. Let's do the synonyms first. Saha, he, tvam, yourself. Katam, how. Mama, to me. Vibhu, Almighty One. Akshipataha, visible. Paratma, the Supreme Soul. Yoga, of mystic yoga. Ishwarahai, by masters. Shruti, of the scriptures. Drishya, by the eye. Amala, spotless. Hrit, within their hearts. Vibhayaya, to be meditated upon. Saksat, directly visible. Adokshaja, O Transcendental Lord, who cannot be seen by material senses. Uru, severe. Vyasyana, by troubles. Anda, blinded. Buddhihi, whose intelligence. Jat, it may be. May, from me. Anudrishya, to be perceived. Iha, in this world. Yasya, whose. Baba, of material life. Apravargaha, cessation. Satvam katam mama vividushi. Satvam katam mamo vivu. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get the meter right. Satvam katam mama vivu. Shipata paratma. Yogishwara shruti darshamala hrit vibhavyaha. Saksada doksha uru vasananda buddhi. Sanme nudrishya hiha yasya bhava parvaga. Satvam kata mama vibhushi patam paramatma. Yogi swara sruti darsamala hrit vibhavyaha. Saksada dosha jaura vasananda buddhi. Shanme nudrishya iha yasabhava parvagaha. Satvam kata mama vibhushi pata paratmatma. Yogiswara sruti drishamala hrid vibhavyaha. Saksada doksha uru vasananda buddhi. Shanme nudrishya iha yasabhava parvagaha. Satvam gata mama vibhushi pata paratma. Yogishwara shruti drishamala hrid vibhavya. Saksada doksha jauru vasananda buddhi. Sanme nudrishya iha yasya bhava parvagaha. Please repeat. Satvam gata mama vubi shipata paramatma. Yogeshwara shruti jashimala hrid vibhayaha. Saksada doksha jauru vasananda buddhi. Sanme nudrashya iha yassa bhava parvagaha. Satvam gadam mama babushi pata paratma. Yogeshwara shruti drishmala hrid vidbhavya. Saksara doksha jauru vasananda buddhi. Sanme nudrishya iha yassa bhava parvagaha. Satvam gada mama vabushi pata paratma. Yogeshwara shruti trishmala hrid vidbhavya. Saksada doksha jauru vijananda buddhi. Sanme nurishyahiha yasya bhava. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. O Almighty One, how is it that my eyes see you here before me? You are the Supreme Soul, whom the greatest masters of mystic yoga can meditate upon within their pure hearts only by employing the spiritual eye of the Vedas. Then how, O Transcendental Lord, are you directly visible to me, since my intelligence has been blinded by the severe tribulations of material life? Only one who has finished his material entanglement in this world should be able to see you. Purport. Even in the body of a lizard, King Nirga could remember his previous life. And now that he had the opportunity to see the Lord, he could understand that he had received special mercy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Gana Janamanhasya Ganajana Shalakya Chakshuru Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabhatatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakapalam Shri Rupam Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagratitam Sahagana Raganabhavitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lali Shri Vaksa Kavidam Cha He Krishna Kanun Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopisha Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishparanu Sutta Devi Parinami Haripare Vanchakapa Karu Prishcha Kripa Sindhu Viyevacha Patitinam Pada Vigo Vaishnava Vigo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, again, reading this nice prayer or question the King Riga is asking. I wanted to throw it out before we got into this very deeply, before we get into this. We see the king, and he's acknowledging he doesn't have any qualifications. Why am I seeing you, Lord? So can we think of devotees or in the past times, the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that saw the Lord and perhaps had qualifications? Can we think of any devotees who were qualified to see the Supreme Lord? Go ahead. Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, very interestingly enough, he was undergoing a tremendous amount of reverses. Burned on a pyre of fire, attempting to trample him by elephants, poisonous snakes, thrown over a cliff, put into a vat of oil and being boiled. Of course, he's jailed. On and on and on, right? All these reverses. And somehow or another, he stays passive, right? He's not deterred. Somehow or another, his meditation is not deterred from the Supreme Personality. Yet, you can acknowledge that he's going through reverses. Also, what he's doing, he's encouraging other daityas, demons, to be attracted to the Supreme Lord. So just like Riga, it was a prior king who was able to give him a benediction that he would see the Lord. And Prahlad was doing the same thing, right? Is there anybody else you can think of who was qualified to see the Lord? Dhruva Maharaj. And who gave him the benediction to see the Lord? Narada Muni. Who was his? Yes, Narada was his spiritual master. He gave him instructions. So he was able to see the Lord. Again, through some extreme austerities and also reverses. His motivation was he wanted to rival his father and his grandfather, right? Of the wealth that they have, all because he could not sit on the lap of his father. Is there anyone else we can think of? Another devotee? Yes. Bali Maharaj? So Bali, okay. He's also in that. He's also in that lineage of his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj. And his qualifications, he's also a demon. He's a demon. And he has qualifications because he's very strict on Vedic principles. He was willing to give charity to Vamadeva, or the dwarf. So he was willing to do that. Is there anybody else we can think of? We mentioned we have one demon and two devotees. Actually, they're all three are devotees, technically. Yeah. Arjuna, yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita, his qualifications. He's had many lifetimes with the Lord, but he's also, and we're going to get into that about Arjuna a little bit more. That's actually in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that he's asking Krishna all these questions about, I want to see your form. So we're seeing the same circumstance with King Riga. He's got this opportunity, all because of the blessings of a spiritual master. So question is, how did Arjuna, for the sake of pastime, just in the Mahabharata, how did Arjuna get the mercy to see the Supreme Lord? Who would be his spiritual master? Yes, that's an excellent point. It is a qualification. But what or whom gave Arjuna that opportunity to have darshan with the Lord? You could say that, but who's the first guru in your family? Dronacharya, yes, but in your family, who's your guru in your family? Yes, Kunti. Mother is considered guru. Because technically, she's doing most of the instructions, not the father, although he qualifies. But in this case, Pandu was not there, but Kunti was there. And why? Kunti had all types of benedictions. Was it Durvasa Muni who gave her a benediction? She had the benedictions, of course, from the demigods. She was very pleasing. So she became a qualified vessel to bring forth all these great sons. So technically, she's always giving them instruction. They were listening to their mother with bated breath. So I'm just trying to set the landscape. There's always someone who gives you benediction. So I want to try to localize this. So how do you see the president? How do you qualify yourself to see the president of the United States or the prime minister of India? How do you go about doing that? I can't hear. How do you get to the high post? Some qualification. What type of qualification? Well, Sudama saw the Lord. He had no material opulence. He had friendship, and they had time and separation from one another, but he was able to get darshan. So the qualification, the vetting. No, before I say that, what was your comment? Okay. So if we look at King Riga, what was his important service? He says right here, by your mercy, I received some mercy. So somehow or another, he didn't have opulence to the degree that impressed the Lord. He wasn't like this big devotee. All he had was another king who was very devoted to Krishna and wanted to build a temple. And Riga, he actually assisted this king in his mission by providing books, Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, as it's stated. So the Shruti, he was able to help him cultivate those things, and this king was able to build that temple. So you can say it's like a Gyata Sukriti. You could say that. But in the case of the president, let's say there's military service, you perform very nicely, you move up the ranks, and then eventually someone introduces you to someone, and then you get a post, or you could be a guard, right, at the White House, a Marine, right? You can get that post, but you have to be recommended by your good service. The other thing is if you're in, why do people during Rath Yatra have no qualifications to get to see the Lord? They have no qualification. Through the mercy. What mercy? The mercy of the devotees who actually arrange for the divine siblings to come out and see the public. So that's the Lord's mercy. But you also have the devotees who are willing to do this. Has there ever been a time when this yatra did not do the Ratha Yatra? Or how about not in the same place in the same year? So it really comes down to the facility of the devotees. So that's mercy. And also the mercy of people who want to support that by donations, what have you. So what I'm saying, there has to be another agency or agent involved in this mercy. So this is what we're seeing with King Riga. He's got the mercy, and he's saying that you direct, old transcendental Lord, are you directly visible to me? He's questioning this. He can't believe it. How am I, this personality, being able to see the Lord? Arjuna, he's making a request as well. He's wanting to know, how is it that that I can be granted the benediction to see the Supreme Lord? So we have 11.4. Let me get rid of this one here. All right, there we go. That's not working. Technology. All right. Manyase yadi chakyam mayam drishtram mito prabhu yogi swara tato me tvam darsayatmanam avyayam. Translation: if you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O Lord, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. Prabhupada says in the purport, it is said that one can neither see, hear, understand, nor perceive the Supreme Lord, Krishna, by the material senses. But if one is engaged in loving transcendental service to the Lord from the beginning, then one can see the Lord by revelation. So we talked about service. We mentioned that. We see that's one technique to get there. Therefore, it says, every living entity is only a spiritual spark. Therefore, it is not possible to see or to understand the Supreme Lord. Arjuna, as a devotee, does not depend on his speculative strength. Rather, he admits his limitations as a living entity and acknowledges Krishna's inestimable position. Arjuna could understand that for a living entity, it is not possible to understand the unlimited infinite. If the infinite reveals himself, then it is possible to understand the nature of the infinite by the grace of the infinite. The word Yogeshwara is also very significant here because the Lord has inconceivable power. If he likes, he can reveal himself by grace, although he is unlimited. Therefore, Arjuna pleads for the inconceivable grace of Krishna. He does not give Krishna orders. Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself unless one surrenders fully in Krishna consciousness and engages in devotional service. Thus, it is not possible for persons who depend on the strength of their mental speculation to see Krishna. So we can see the King Riga, right? He did engage in devotional service. He also depended on the mercy of another. And because of that strong desire that he had, he was able to get the darshana artinaha, right? He was seeking the Lord, and he also got the darshan of the Lord. So with that, on 11.5, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Pasyame Parta Rupani Santashota Saharsanaha Nanda Vinhani Divyani Nanda Vimatati Varnartarani Cha. Tiny print, I can't see it, even with my glasses. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see how my opulence, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. So now Krishna is about to present this. So here's an interesting thing, because we didn't cover this yet. Demons. Can we think of some demons who are able to get Krishna's audience? There are plenty. Demons that were able to get the audience, the darshan of the Supreme Lord. Haranyakasipu, who else? Ravana, Kamsa, who else? Huh? Yes, there's so many. So the question is, what was their qualification? So at face value, it seems that there's no qualification. But they do have qualification. So to summarize, Jaya Vijaya, they take this form, they take this pastime. So their qualifications, if they're already servants of the Lord, they've agreed to some conditions in order to get back home to Vaikuntha. So there's their qualification. Then you can think about, okay, what about Putana, right? So what is Putana's qualification? Well, in her previous life, she was the wife of Bali Maharaj. She actually wanted, yes, she wanted a son. She wanted a son like Vamanadev. She wanted that. That was her desire. But she made a mistake. She became envious because her husband was giving everything in the kitchen sink away, right? So she gets this pastime to be Krishna's surrogate mother, is Puta. Krishna accepted her as mother. She gave milk. Although it was poison, Krishna closes his eyes and he takes the milk and her life force as well. So we have a situation that, so she had qualification because she was the wife of a king in this pastime of Bali Maharaj. Can we think of someone else? Jaya Vijaya. Not Jaya Vijaya. Yes. So what was their qualification? Well, it's said that they had 3 incarnations. So you have the incarnation with Ravana, you have the incarnation with Hiranyakasipu, and then you had the incarnation of Sisupal. So that's 3. So I've heard that. So let's, for namesake, because we don't have another scholar here that could definitely validate that. Lord Nityananda is acting as a just ordinary devotee. Of course, he's not ordinary. So due to his mercy, he's giving again. So we have this pastime of the holy name, which is given indiscriminately. All you have to do is, the qualification is you have 2 ears. That's the only qualification to get the Lord's mercy. So the darshan of the ear. So that qualification is there. So they were able to benefit from that. So if you look at all these particulars with demons and devotees or deva, you see there's quite a bit qualifications. But in this Kali Yuga, because of Harinam Sankirtan, the only qualification is it's Krishna, or the holy name is given freely. It's not requiring some specific qualification other than being in Kali Yuga, hearing the devotees, being in front of the Ratha Yatra cart, that sort of thing. So it's very easy to get that audience. But still, devotees have to perform the Sankirtan in order for people to actually get the mercy. So you're seeing that. I'll read this translation again for 11.5. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulence, hundreds and thousands of very divine and multicolored forms." Purport. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation and is therefore subject to temporary time of this material nature. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non-manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as a devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form, but because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. So this also applies to Riga. He had the power to see the Lord in the form of a lizard, and he had his memory intact. Consciousness was still there. This is due to the mercy of the Lord. So you see, for the ordinary individuals in Kali Yuga, they get the universal form. You can see the Lord in the form of nature. trees, grass, sky, planets. But unfortunately, because it's informal or it's somewhat impersonal, they don't make the connection that this is the Lord's energy. So that's a possibility of another way of getting the darshan of the Lord. Even in the Christian tradition, they talk about the Son, right? Literally the Son and then the Son of God. So this is a way, it's a stepping stone for people to actually approach the Supreme Lord. 11.7. Ihaikas tatam jagat krishnam pasyadayas characharam mama deha bude kesha yakshaya drishtram. Translation. Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once. In this body of mine, this universal form can show you whatever you want or you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place. Imagine that. Mother Yashoda had the same benefit. She could see everything, and she was in one place. What a benediction. Purport. No one can see the entire universe while sitting in one place. Even the most advanced scientists cannot see what is going on in other parts of the universe. But a devotee like Arjuna can see everything that exists in any part of the universe. Krishna gives him the power to see anything he wants to see, past, present, and future. Thus, by the mercy of Krishna, Arjuna is able to see everything. So did Mother Yashoda. Past, present, and future. Everything was available. So you can see how this mercy is being dispensated, the way it's been given, and how much more mercy did we get in this particular age, because we can hear the holy name. Harinam Sankirtan, right? Hearing, chanting, remembering. 3 of those processes of the nine of devotional service. So we can get that. In 11.8 we see Natum mam sakshase drishtum annaiva sa chakshusha divyadandame te chakshu pashyame yoga aishwaram. Translation. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you the divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. So we see that Driga had to have some cataracts removed from his eyes as a lizard, right? Otherwise, if he was an ordinary lizard, how can he see? How can he know? The consciousness is deeply covered over. So there's no possible way to be able to perceive the Lord as he is. But he's given a benediction. So we have to think too. We've been given a benediction. We can see the Lord in this form. Kishore, Kishore. The divine siblings. And Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. We can actually see them. So we're giving that. But the idea is to have the perception and vision also within our heart. And we can do that when we're chanting. Prabhupada's even said it's more important rather than seeing is to hear. Because hearing creates sight. You can't build this building without hearing. That's where you take the instruction. You can't solve a math problem unless you take the instruction. That's through hearing, then repeating, then remembering. So this is the building blocks. This is why the hearing process is so important now in this age of Kali Yuga. We can hear the holy name, and then it creates or clears up. You know, Krishna is the supreme optometrist. He can clear up the clouded vision that we have, both in consciousness and also in sight. The pure devotee does not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with two hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace, not with the mind, but with the spiritual eyes. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind, but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will be clear in subsequent verses. Yet because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form. Devotees who are not correctly situated in transcendental relationships with Krishna are attracted by loving features and not by the godless display of opulence. The playmates of Krishna, the friends of Krishna, and the parents of Krishna never want Krishna to show his opulence. They are so immersed in pure love that they do not even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In their loving exchange, they forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the boys who play with Krishna are all highly pious souls. And after many, many births, they are able to play with Krishna. Such boys do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They take him as a personal friend. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recites this verse. Itam satyam brahma sukhanubhutya dashyam gattanam param daivetena maya shritanam naradarakina sakkambi guru krita punya punjaha. Quote, here is the Supreme Person who is considered the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. Now these boys, who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives, are playing with that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 11. So we can see this variegated process of qualifications that's necessary to see the Lord. And then the easiest process, which is simply Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, Guru Nasteva, 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 Katiya Anyata. So we're propagating the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this purport, it further states the fact is that the devotee is not concerned with seeing the Vishvarupa, the universal form, but Arjuna wanted to see it to substantiate Krishna's statement so that in the future people could understand that Krishna not only theoretically or philosophically presented himself as the supreme, but actually presented himself as such to Arjuna. Arjuna must confirm that because Arjuna is the beginning of the parampara system, those who are actually interested in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and who follow the footsteps of Arjuna, should understand that Krishna not only theoretically presented himself as the Supreme, but actually revealed himself as the Supreme. The Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power to see his universal form because he knew that Arjuna did not particularly want to see it, as we have already explained. So, any questions, comments, corrections, realizations that you may have on this? I don't think I'm going to get to the 27 and 28.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. This is the fun part, questions and answers.
Thank you so much for such an interactive class today. It's a, it's. I was thinking this is the mercy of the Lord that even though the king is in a lizard form now, the Lord is personally coming to deliver, and how important it is to have that understanding of Krishna, that the Krishna meets us where we are. And then we, we can lift ourselves up. It's not that we have to first work very hard to get Krishna and then we are qualified. Krishna meets us where we are and then we move forward.
Yeah, even more so, we can be real specific by the most merciful, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Nityananda. Krishna does have some guidelines, right? And we can see some of those. First, the mercy of another devotee. That's why it's so important to take the blessings from devotees. Like people, oh, Prabhu, would you please pray for me? Those blessings, Krishna pays attention to those. But in this particular case with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everything, you don't have to ask for a blessing. It's just given to you, right? There's not necessarily a qualified Brahmana or Vaishnava there, per se, to create that crossover for you. But in this particular case, the holy name is just given away so freely, extreme degradation of the age that we live in. But the point you make is very, very solid. But we also have in circumstances where the Lord, in the form of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, freely are giving away this mercy. And then even their devotees are even more merciful. You have 6 Goswamis and so on and so forth. So, Vaishnava save another.
Thank you for your class, Prabhuji, and for your association. Being kind of like a friend of yours, I wanted to share something where sometimes we as friends will joke around and stuff, and as you would hear, a lot of times you would joke and I would not respond. I'd be very serious because I would say to you, I'd say, I need to see you. I'm trying to see you because sometimes as peers and friends, we can take a person for granted. Like, oh, this guy,
Yeah.
And I was doing my best to try to avoid that. So please forgive me for any apparatus I may have committed, either knowingly or unknowingly. I just wanted to see the devotee person, and I just to make a comment. It's very important for before even seeing the Lord that we try to see each other, that empathy
Excellent point.
and respect each other.
Yeah.
Maybe you could say.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Arjuna, and he's saying, I've sat on the same chair, slept on the same bed, I've joked with you, and now he's realizing, right? So we do have to see, once we can get by the veneer of the material body, because that's what we see. We easily default into seeing that. Mataji, Prabhuji, this body, that body, the dictates of our culture. We see all those things, and they're actually impediments to our Krishna consciousness. So if we can just see what I really mean is here, right? Just like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, a fool is discovered when he speaks. That's by hearing. Sometimes we don't get that by the activity. But when we are fortunate enough, is Arjuna is asking Krishna, how can I recognize a realized person? Is it the way he walks, the way he speaks, his actions. So what happens is those things come out. They'll come out. But speaking is one of those, so we can hear. So joking is not absent. We see that with Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur. No, not just Haridas Thakur, but Shri Adwaita. We see it there too. They're joking with each other all the time, right? And they're looking at each other. One is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expansion directly, Balaram, and the other one is the Vishnu expansion. So they're having this pastime. So they're also giving us some instructions how to conduct ourselves, and we do it sometimes. Prabhu, oh, your dhoti is so nicely pressed. Is it a criticism or is it a compliment? You know, we do things like this because we're having fun with the devotees. It's loving exchanges. Because even that type of joking, we know, are part of the 12 rasas, right? Just like you have ghastliness, you know, all these kind of things. They're there, but they roll out from the symptoms of love. They're just, some are gross reflections versus being, you know, the internal thing. So, no offense, you know, I hope that anyone can tolerate me as well. But it's a process. We have to remember, was that, I'm trying to think of that movie where the kid's in the back of the car and he's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So we're not there yet, but we're in progress, right? We're meeting, every day we can meet a milestone. And then when we get to the destination, we're still saying, am I there yet? Because we know it's unlimited. And Krishna is the same way. He's always looking to increase the amala, right? The taste, the ruchi. He's always looking to increase that. And so this is how our spiritual life ceases to be heknai, right? It's not conditional, it's constitutional, right? It's the platform in which we are to move from. Were there any other questions? Did I answer? Any other questions? Mataji?
I don't have a question, just like an observation, I guess. I just heard some other, the reason that all the demons saw Krishna is because they were really focused on Krishna. It's just the other way, they wanted to destroy Krishna. I remember this from another class.
Okay, if you could say that a little slower because the mic has a little feedback.
Okay, just because the demons got to see Krishna because they were so very focused on Krishna, except they wanted to destroy him, not to worship him.
Right. Yeah, so you have this favorable and then you have the unfavorable. And they still get liberation, right? But the love is absent. And this is what the devotees are seeking. They're trying to, they're like bumblebees, you know, they're trying to get to the flower and they're trying to get to the nectar, right? Now you may have some gardener or some landscaper, he doesn't think anything, he's cutting, you know, the lawn and he cuts the flowers down too. He doesn't really appreciate the nectar that's in the flower. Or he doesn't learn how to pull the weeds out, right? So the demons are like, they don't recognize the value of the flower in order to extract the nectar. But they have to be given that mercy in order to see that. And that's our benediction, our benefit, is that we can see the benefit. And then hopefully it increases. We don't forget Krishna. Because it's easy. You can get angry. or you can be disgusted or frustrated. I don't like the administration. I don't like this. I don't like what's going on in the world. The traffic. You have people yelling and screaming all night, or just like last night, everybody's honking their horn. They're still celebrating um, Mexican Independence Day, along with the Lady of Guadalupe. You have all these things within this week, and they're celebrating. I'm like, I'm just trying to rest, right? And then we're doing Ratha Yatra, and we're making all kinds of sounds, and they're thinking, well, can they just stop? There's just so much noise, right? One is beneficial, and the other one is not, right? But they're still celebrating, and demons do that as well. They want to celebrate their pride. As I keep quoting this, Dumbo Darpano Abhimanascha. They're prideful, they're arrogant, and they have conceit, like that. Then anger, krodha, and then they have parushayam. They have uh, harassing. They have this harassing nature. Then they have ignorance, agyanam, right? And chahibitchatasya, right? These are all these qualities that, Krishna is telling, O son of Partha, right? Sampradam, sampradan asuram. These are these qualities, sampradam. These are these qualities of these demons, right? So you can see that nature, and we're trying to avoid that. And you can see with King Riga, he had the pride. He had pride. And then, as I said Thursday, you had the pride buster. It gets smashed, right? And so some were thinking, well, this is so harsh. When I mentioned when you have stage 4 cancer, you have to do extreme surgery. And this is the case that most of us are at. We're at stage 4, right? And we have to have things from extreme because the Lord is so expert in relieving us from our ailments. So, if there are not any other questions, Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Brihat Madanga ki, Sama Bhakta Vrinda Devi ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Pramanande. Thanks for tolerating me.